Your eyes see deeper than what I hide behind. Not just my victories, you take my losses and you breathe the broken things to life. Once again, here is my heart, all that I am. Take it and make it something beautiful. Here in your hands, like only you can. Take it and make it something beautiful. The sweet surrender, not like I've known before. You know my failures, and still you call me yours. And not just my victories, you take my losses and you breathe the broken things to life. Once again, here is my heart, all that I am. Take it and make it something beautiful. Here in your hands, like only you can. Take it and make it something beautiful. Oh yeah. So here's my heart, here is my heart, all that I am. Take it and make it something beautiful. Here in your hands, like only you can. Take it and make it something beautiful. Oh yeah. So here is my heart, all that I am. Take it and make it something beautiful. Here in your hands, like only you can. Take it and make it something beautiful. Here is my heart, all that I am. Take it and make it something beautiful. Here in your hands, like only you can. Take it and make it something beautiful. Oh yeah. I give you my attention. I give you my attention, my focus, pushing off the limits. This moment, I feel your spirit moving all around me. Come and have your way. I'm looking at the dry bones, you're reviving. There's faith inside of my soul, you're uniting. You're calling me to levels that are higher. I can see your face when I set my eyes on you. Everything else fades when I look your way. Everything else fades when I look your way. Everything else fades. Gaze upon your beauty, gaze upon your beauty, full of wonder. The world falling behind me, there's no other, no other. dancing in the light. Oh, dancing in the light of your glory. Joy is awakening, rising like the sun every morning. Hope is alive in me. Oh, we're dancing in the light of your glory. Joy is awakening, rising like the sun every morning. Hope is alive in me. When I set my eyes on you, when I set my eyes on you, when I set my eyes on you, everything else fades. When I look your way, everything else fades. When I look your way, everything else fades. Well, again, welcome to the project tonight, guys. My name is Brett. This is Lisa, and we're glad that you guys decided to be here tonight. It's kind of a special night tonight. It's like our summer kickoff, so we're gonna have a food truck out in the parking lot after the service, and we're gonna have live music out there as well. So you're gonna wanna make sure to stick around after. And also just wanna say hey to everyone who's watching online right now, that you guys are tuning in as well. But you guys can go ahead and take a seat here.
The decision-making part of your brain isn't fully developed till you're 25 years old or so. You've probably heard this before. Usually it's used in two different ways. In one way, it's used as an excuse when you do something dumb. It's like, hey, not 25 yet, right? Prefrontal cortex in my brain, not fully formed, can't make good decisions. The other side, it's often kind of used by boomers or the older generation to be like these kids. Their brains aren't even fully developed yet, and they're making stupid decisions, and that's kind of like this negative thing that's put on you. But it does concern me that we put such severe consequential decisions on young adults at 18 years old sometimes, or before you're 25. Like, hey, you're gonna graduate high school, you're 17, 18 years old. We're gonna need you to decide what career you're gonna do for the rest of your life, and then give $80,000 of debt towards that you can't get out of, right? Anyone ever felt that is pressure. That's like saying to a 6-year-old, what tattoo would you like? Like, I don't know, the fire truck, a dinosaur. Like, how many people have you met? Like, I'm 32, almost 32, and I've met so many people that are actually 32, and they're on their 4th degree. They have 10 degrees worth of school, but only 1 year of each, because they didn't know what they wanted to do. But they couldn't, so we're putting this hard decision, these life-altering decisions on young people, and I start to think back, when I was 18 or 19, what decisions was I making? And did I make the best decisions, specifically with what my money would do? And let me tell you a story. When I was about 18, I had met my first girlfriend, and I don't know if you've had a first boyfriend or girlfriend, but you don't really know any difference, so you think this is the best one in the world, right? There's no other comparison, so I was within weeks I'm gonna marry this girl, no doubt at all. She's the one for me. I've never had a better girlfriend ever, so she must be my wife. Idiot. This was not someone I should have married. I did not end up marrying her, but I thought that this was the plan. So I started to, if you're gonna get married, generally it's a good idea you have to get to the wedding ring, you gotta get the engagement ring, right? So I started saving money because these things cost money, and there's a little bit every paycheck, put it away, it's gonna be, a little bit here and there, and I got up to $600, and for me, that was a big deal. I'm not always great with saving my money. And I got to the $600, but then I realized, wedding engagement rings sound great. That's a good idea, but that Sony PlayStation 3 is also $600. Needless to say, I spent countless hours playing that PlayStation 3. Best decision of my life, because I ended up not marrying that girl. It would have been an unequivocal disaster. She's great, all the best to her. But PS3, baby, right? Batman needed my help. So that was the better decision. But if that was somebody I wanted to actually spend my life with, that wouldn't have been an adult decision. I was young. Frankly, I was dumb. And it worked out for me. But I wasn't thinking clearly. And when I think about money, and I think about your generation, it's actually really hard to navigate. Like with everybody, money is a huge issue because debt can trap us forever. Like the decisions you make, not just with student loan debts, but the decisions you make in the next couple of years will determine the availability of your generosity in your life. It will determine how comfortably you can live. It will change your whole world. Your 20s are extremely consequential to your life with your financial decisions, not just in what type of house you'll have, whether you'll be renting till you're 40, whether you'll be able to afford something in this crazy housing bubble that we're existing in right now, or whether you'll ever be able to retire. Those things will be impacted by these decisions. It will affect how much you can give to charity. It will impact how generous you can be with your money. How your whole world will be determined by this. No pressure though, right? Feeling it? A little bit? Statistically, your generation cares about 3 things above all else. This is statistically, so if you're like, Jeff, I'm from that generation, I don't care about that at all. I'm saying majority rules on this one, all right? But statistically, education is huge. Getting a good degree, graduating, that's a big deal. Second one is social justice, and that probably isn't a surprise to anybody here. The third one, and one of the most important ones, is financial security and home ownership. And it makes sense, right? Like when you actually look at your generation, most of you would have come into cognizance, becoming aware of the world around you at around 2008. And I don't know if you know this about 2008, but something significant happened in our world. It was the financial crisis, mostly done by what happened was the banks came together and they basically bet in their best interest and took advantage of the average person and the money that we all give to the banks, and everybody lost all their money. The housing market crashed, the automotive industry crashed, and the entire world went into what was deemed at that time a once-in-a-lifetime global recession, which would be fine because, okay, we'll take our lumps, we'll move on, and then what else did you experience next? You experienced the housing bubble of the mid-2010s or so, and the economy didn't seem to recover. And that was slowly but surely, we're kind of grinding through that. You're probably getting into like junior high and realizing, okay, like mom and dad seem stressed about money. So you're going through that. And then what happens next? Well, in Alberta, we're starting to get our feet under us again. The economy is getting better. And then this thing happens. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. COVID-19 pandemic, little known thing. And it has caused catastrophic economic problems. We're actually just starting to see the effects of inflation from the amount of borrowing money and printing new money that we have to see. And basically what I'm saying is that you guys have never experienced any sort of economic certainty. You've never experienced any sort of comfort as far as your finances. There's always been chaos in the world around you, whether it's in the economy or your families. You probably grew up seeing either your parents or somebody else's parents close to you having their house foreclosed, losing their job, being constantly stressed, going into debt, and it's just been chaos. I get it. At least when my teenage years, the economy here was crazy. Like the oil boom was on, it was the Wild West, and everybody had like $100,000 jobs, and everybody moved to the small towns and had like 3 boats and 6 quads, and it really wasn't a time of good financial decisions, but the money was flowing. We called Alberta the land of milk and honey, and everyone got a $400 check one day for no reason, just to give us money. It was a gift from the government. It's a totally different time. You haven't experienced that, and I understand that. So I can understand why you would have some level of cynicism to the world around you. But just as much as you guys care about the world around you, and just as much as we see that as being important to your generation, we also see you taking steps forward in that. We also see that this generation, Gen Z, young adults, are really the first generation I've ever seen who goes up and will actually hustle while they're in school. Like college students starting online businesses, starting nonprofits. You guys see the issue in front of you. You're like, well, let's do something about it. Unlike the millennials who like to just tweet about it and complain about it and make a mess of things, your generation is actually known to do something about it. I hope that continues. But while you guys are willing to take steps towards financial security, while you're actually really good at saving and investing statistically, you guys are also the generation that has faced more than any generation before it just an attack by advertising. When I was a kid, when I was a child, the only way that the ad people could get me to know and they go begging to my parents for that new toy was on TV shows, like between the cartoons. It'd be like Game Boy Color, Pokemon Blue, and Pokemon Red. Get it today or your life will fall apart. I'm like, Mom, my life's gonna fall apart if I don't get a Game Boy Color. And that was like always the place you would get it from. And every time my cartoon would end, there'd be something else like a Furby or a Tickle Me Elmo. That wasn't my thing, but it was really popular for some reason. There's all these things that would come through that, but that was it. You turn off the TV, what are they going to get me through a newspaper? Yeah, right. No one's reading magazines like I'm 12 years old. It's not going to happen. But your generation has been nurtured, cradled, owned, manipulated by the almighty algorithm. I remember before the algorithm, before the internet started reading your stinking mind, like I walk down the aisle of a grocery store and I mutter to myself, I haven't had roast beef in a while. Like barely an audible whisper, roast beef, roast beef. And somehow, the executives at Apple are sitting in a boardroom. He said roast beef, hit him with the ad. And that evening, as I'm falling asleep, and in between cat videos, next thing I know, it's like, Johnson's roast beef sandwiches on sale at your local grocer. I'm like, how did they know? How did they know? They're reading my mind, and it's driving me crazy. And I didn't have that before, so like it's weird to me, but your whole life, that's been coming at you. The internet is constantly reading parts of your mind, parts of the patterns of your behavior, the things that they say that we're not listening to us verbally. I'll take them for their word. I don't actually. I think they're actually listening to us. But I don't want the FBI agent to know that I'm on to him, right? But so here's the thing, they know. They're following the patterns of what you watch on YouTube, on where you go. They track your behavior, they track your travel, and they're hitting you with everything that you could possibly want. It's like, oh, you drove past a Cabela's. Well, here's something for hunting. You drove past Mac. Well, you must, climb rocks all the time. Shout out to the rock climbing group. That's how they do it. They know exactly what you want. And they will stop at nothing to stop you. Think about it all. And even things you don't want. Things that you didn't even think you would ever want. I remember there was this one time I was scrolling through and it's like gloves that won't ever get too hot. Like oven mitts that you could, like this guy's touching magma with it. Basically like hot coals because you're ever cooking with hot coals that you're actually scooping up like sand. And I'm like, I need that. I'm tired of hot coals burning my hand. I actually bought this stupid thing because it tricked me. But every single ad, they just want you to buy and buy and buy. And this is the thing, it keeps telling you over and over, you don't have enough. You need to keep up with everyone else. You are falling behind. You're falling behind the third generation wealth friends that you have who had their houses, their down payment on their house paid for already. They've got like 3 kids and a dog somehow at like 23. They're married. We're the Bitcoin millionaires, the social media influencers. All you want is for someone to walk up to you and say, hey man, I love your car. What do you do for a living? They just are ahead of you and you're never going to be able to keep up. And that's the trap that we fall into, because that's what society tells us. It tells you that you want stability, and even though you have stability, you need more. It's not enough. You always need a little bit more. So what does the Bible say about any of this? We know, and we open the Bible every week that we're here because the Bible brings us face to face with the person of Jesus. But also, we say this at the project, it's not an old dusty book that doesn't have anything to say to us today. It actually is a living, breathing document. It brings us face to face with what God's plan is for our lives. And it's the best way to live your life is in alignment with Jesus and what he says. So I want to open up to a document called the book of Matthew, second half of the Bible called the New Testament. It's by a guy named Matthew who lived with Jesus, and it's his first-hand account of Jesus' life. So in chapter 19, verses 16 and 23, he says this: someone came to Jesus with this question, "Teacher, what good deed must I do to have eternal life?" "Why ask me about what is good?" Jesus replied. "There's only one who is good. But to answer your question, if you want to receive eternal life, keep the commandments." "Which ones?" the man asked. And Jesus replied, you must not murder, you must not commit adultery, you must not steal, you must not testify falsely. Honor your mother and father, love your neighbor as yourself. I've obeyed all these commandments, the young man replied. What else must I do? Jesus told him, if you want to be perfect, go and sell all your possessions and give the money to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come and follow me. But when the young man heard this, he went away sad because he had so many possessions. Then Jesus said to his disciples, I tell you the truth, it is very hard for a rich person to enter the kingdom of heaven. I'll say it again. It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to enter the kingdom of God. The disciples were astounded. Then who in the world can be saved, they asked. Jesus looked at them intently and said, humanly speaking, it's impossible. But with God, everything is possible. Now let's be clear. We talk about this quite often here at the project. Nothing we can do makes us right with God. Forgiveness from sin, eternal life doesn't come from anything we sell, any action we take, any way we live. But the fact is, comes straight from relationship with Jesus and acknowledging that he is God and that making him Lord of our life. We're good? That could be a little confusing here. What he's not saying that you need to actually give away everything you have. That's the only way that you can be right with God, is by selling your car, selling your PlayStation 5 or your Xbox One X or whatever you got, whatever you value the most, you can sell that and then you can go to heaven. You just got to live like a traveling homeless person, and that's the way to heaven. He's not saying that. What he's saying, though, is that we need to really be aligned with Jesus' kingdom, with what Jesus' life and the way we're supposed to live, in the way that we value things and the way that we possess things as much as we are within our faith while we're on earth here as well. To put it more clearly maybe is to say that we need to be aligned with Jesus' kingdom in our actions, in our thoughts, and in the way we value things as much in our practical life as we are in our faith with Jesus himself. What we do matters. How we value things matters. And those things will impact how we act and will impact our heart as well. Because when Jesus impacts our lives, he changes our heart. And when Jesus changes our heart, our actions and our values will change because of that. That's just how it works. So can I never own anything nice? Should I just sell everything? Because that's kind of what Jesus is saying. And he's not saying that. You totally could. Like, it wouldn't be wrong, it'd be a little odd if you just sold everything you had and then followed Jesus and kind of, I've met some of my friends that are, not so much friends, but people I've encountered who kind of take that kind of transient lifestyle and they follow Jesus and, kind of just a little different. They rarely cut their hair or their beard, it seems, and that's kind of the path that they take. And they seem to really like fancy coffee, but outside of that, it's not really anything else that they put value in or spend money on. But that's not what Jesus is getting at here. Jesus was a master at communication. Jesus says things to really get the point across. When he said in that verse, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of the needle than it is for a rich man to go into heaven, and then says, to say it again, it's extremely difficult. He's not saying that it's impossible. Just so you know, when we're talking about a camel through the eye of the needle, I'm thinking like, if you've ever been to the zoo, a camel is big. I'm a big man. Camels are like at least 2.5 of me, probably significantly more, but they're huge. And then if you've ever, I know we're not like super popular right now in culture, but sewing, like literally just hand sewing, the eye of the needle is the part that you thread the thread through. And I don't think with my big hands I could actually make that happen, but I've seen it done. It's very small. He's making a metaphor. He's trying to explain, like, it is extraordinarily difficult for somebody who has a lot of possessions and values those things to be in alignment with the kingdom of God. So what do we do with that? To be honest, it's not going to be easy. We have to align ourselves with the Bible. We have to align ourselves with Jesus. So what does that mean? Well, 1 Timothy says this. In 1 Timothy 6-10, it's a letter by a guy named Paul to the guy he's mentoring, a young pastor named Timothy. And it says, "For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. And some people, craving money, have wandered from the true faith and pierced themselves with many sorrows." Now you've probably heard this before. Usually the way I've heard this before, it says money is the root of all evil. And that would really lead me, if I'm just being baseline logical, to be like, okay, well, you know what? I just can't have money. Money is evil. Money is bad, and we shouldn't have it, and there's no purpose to have it, and that would lead us towards that idea of sell everything. But what is money? Think about it. Think about how much you've wanted money, how much you've needed money, how much you've been like, man, if only I had more money. And then think about what it actually is. It's really just an arbitrary value we've put on something. I'm not saying it's not worth anything, because that's how society functions. But when you think about it, like, what takes a piece of paper that's a piece of Kleenex or tissue paper aside from a $20 bill, other than we've decided as a society that this one is worth 20 credits or 20 pieces of money? Like, really, subjectively, it's a little ridiculous. And then there's not even that much money printed anymore. It's just kind of like this digital representation of currency that's going through the world. Even historically, gold being one of the things that, or silver pieces, if you go back even further, these precious metals. What about gold makes it more valuable? It doesn't do anything. It's actually a soft metal that doesn't do anything of value. You can't build stuff with it. It's not overly strong, but we've decided that this is worth something. So what is it that we value? What is it about money and currency that drives us to want more of it? And when it says in 1 Timothy, craving money to the point where it will pierce us with sorrow. What is the evil? What is the love of money that drives us towards negativity? What is bad about that? It comes down to two things. Number one is this: it's comfort. We love comfort. We love feeling like we're in control. Money gives us this feeling like we can control our lives. Money gives us this feeling like we can't be stopped. If I have enough money, it doesn't matter what happens to me, I will be in control. I will be in control of my life. I'll have a nice car. Nothing can really touch me. If I could only get that next thing that I've been craving, that next thing that I want, my life will be safe, my life will be secure, and I will be in control. But the thing that drives us in that is not just control, but greed. More, more, more. And what is it about that greed that becomes a problem when we're talking about alignment with Jesus and what God wants for our lives? Well, let's look at Genesis 20, verses 3 to 6. And this is the commandments that God gives his people, right? These are the great commandments. And one of them is to have no other God before me. Don't make any idols. Don't bow down to these idols. Don't worship them. And that's what it comes down to. That's where the love of money becomes dangerous. When it becomes an idol in your life. When money becomes God in your life. When we think of having no other gods before God or instead of God that are above God in your life. Having no other gods, small g, not big G, if you want to categorize it that way. It's always like, well, I don't worship Buddha. I don't worship these different gods or whatever they are, these different religions. I believe in God. I believe in the God of the Bible. Well, then I'm good. But there's so many idols, so many little gods that we put in front of us. Comfort, finances, sexuality, the lies that we're told that, like we said last week, that I need sex right now. Sex is everything in my life. It drives every decision I make. Finances, I need money, I need comfort. All these things come before God. They become idols in our lives. And we put them before God and we actually start to worship these things. We bow down at the altar of our finances, and those are the ones that we worship. But God doesn't want and refuses to have competition. He created you. He created the world. He needs you to worship him. And he doesn't even need us. He demands it. He demands that we would worship him because he's worth worshiping, because he's given us everything. And the fact is, beyond our finances, beyond our faith in the stock market, beyond our faith in whatever line of credit your parents set up or whatever they've been saving for your college fund, beyond that, God is enough. God is the only one worth worshiping. God is the only one that you can really have true comfort in. Money will not fulfill you. So, you don't believe me? Honestly, I look back at my days in junior high. You know what I wanted more than anything was an iPod click wheel, not even a touch. Like, old school iPod. The click wheel, the greatest invention in human history. Like, it was sweet, and it was like the epitome of being successful financially. All I wanted was this iPod, and I wanted a vehicle and a girlfriend. That was really the three things that I was looking for at, like, those were the three most important investments for 14-year-old Jeff. Well, I got my iPod click wheel. Video, actually, game changer. I still have that thing, by the way. It's actually still works, kind of cool. But I got that, and I'm like, okay, check. My life is almost complete. Got my first car, a 1997 Chevy Cavalier. Piece of garbage, but I was really pumped about it. I got my car, eventually got my girlfriend. But the next thing you know, it's like, oh man, you know what? I could really use a nicer car. You know, the iPod click wheel, the video, it's not good enough. They got the touch now. They got the iPhone. I wanted the iPhone. I got the iPhone. You know, the next thing is like, well, I got a girlfriend. Well, I want to get married now. I want a house. And maybe the best way I can explain this is actually I've always wanted a truck, and I've never gotten a truck because they're a little bit more expensive, and I've kind of been paying off student debt. But this year I went out and I bought a 2013 Toyota Tacoma. And I love this thing. I've wanted a Tacoma forever. And I was so happy with it. 2013, it's got like a TV screen for controls. Like, that was a big deal for me. Everything else was like sliders, and it was just like 1990s cars, and it was finally nice to have something that I was really proud of. And then I pulled up and started working here in January a couple months later, and two of my coworkers have 2018 Toyota Tacomas. Oh. Every time I drive here, I feel sad. And the worst part is that, like, we kind of feel, we know we're total losers for this, but a couple of us will like park beside each other and like back in. We make sure we park beside each other. There'll be like 3 Tacomas. One of our coworkers doesn't know we're doing it. He's unaware, but we're always parking them together because we're dorks. But every time I walk out, I'm like, oh, I have the worst one. Mine sucks. My life sucks. I hate my Toyota Tacoma. I should take out a loan and get a 2018. And I could. And I would feel fulfilled for a moment. But next thing you know, the 2022 is going to come out, and then I'm going to feel sad because one of my coworkers will probably get one of those just to spite me. The point is, there's always going to be more. There's always going to be something you want more. There's always going to be something you could be worshiping. And at the end of the day, it's your finances that are going to lead to it. There's always going to be a society and a culture that's telling you you don't have enough. And that will drive you, unfortunately, into debt. I've talked to so many young adults who are gotten into credit card debt, and they can't escape it. It's a trap. Don't do it. If you're getting into debt right now, take the first steps to get out of it. I've only at about 30 started to really start to take my debt seriously. Try to not get into it at all, because it will impact your ability to be generous. The Bible talks a lot about generosity, being generous with people. Jesus was generous with his time. He gave everything. And as Christians, people who follow Jesus, we need to be generous as well. But if you're crippled by debt, that's going to inhibit you from doing that. Your finances matter. I'm not saying that money doesn't matter, but I'm saying it's not God, and it shouldn't be God, and it shouldn't control your life. You need to get your priorities straight. A Jesus-based life is about, in everything we say, think, and do, aligning our world, our worldview, and our actions and our faith with Jesus. And that includes our finances. Money isn't evil. But if it becomes a drug, if it becomes something that we need, something that we crave, something that we lust after, that we need with every fiber in our being for comfort and that we worship, then it becomes the root of that evil. You probably heard this quote before, but John D Rockefeller, this guy was loaded. He was like one of the original oil tycoons. 70 years ago or so, he was so rich, he owned basically 1% of the wealth of North America. Think about that. That's spectacular. People are like, Elon Musk has too much money. Billionaires have too much money. This guy had 1% of the North American economy in his bank account. And when he was interviewed near the end of his life, he was asked this. He's had a spectacular life. He said, how much more money do you need? And his response was, just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. You will never be fulfilled by money. It'll never be enough. I'm not saying don't look for stability. I'm not saying don't invest. I'm not saying don't go to college. I'm saying, where are your priorities? Are you aligned with Jesus? Matthew 6:19-21 says, "Don't store up treasures here on earth, where moths eat them and rust destroys them, and where thieves break in and steal. Store your treasures in heaven, where moths and rust cannot destroy, and thieves do not break in and steal. Wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will also be." Where you put your treasure is where the desires of your heart will be. And let me quickly say this. Maybe you've heard this term before. Maybe you've been around church or you've been on the periphery, and it's great if you're here and you've never been to church before. You're welcome to be here. You don't have to believe what we believe, but you're welcome to be in the community. The project is for everyone. But you may have heard of something called the prosperity gospel. It's this theology, this way of understanding God, that the more you follow Jesus, the more money you give to God, the more your life will be blessed financially and with health. You're going to drive a BMW, you have an Audi, you're going to live this spectacular life, you'll have the best clothes, you're going to have money, you're going to be blessed 5 times whatever you give into it. And that's the point of a Jesus-based life, is prosperity and wealth. That is a North American-built lie. I know somebody who follows Jesus and is someone who has been a huge impact in my life. Their family has, and right now she is on basically her deathbed at the moment, fighting cancer. She's followed Jesus with everything in her heart, with everything in her life. A huge part of the reason that I am who I am today, her and her family. Nothing is guaranteed. Health, finances, the economy could fall apart. Our health could fall apart. But I'll tell you this, where the prosperity gospel fails, the truth of the Jesus-based life, the truth of Jesus stops and says, through the pain, through the suffering, through the brokenness, God is enough. And God will be there through anything that you go through. Any trouble you go through financially, any trouble that you go through in your health, no matter what relationship breakdown you have, your comfort doesn't come from finances or anything else. It comes from Jesus. He will sustain you. He will carry you. He is everything you need. And that doesn't mean it's easy. Just because you follow Jesus, just because you make a decision, doesn't mean your life will be easy. It probably will actually be incredibly hard, but it means that we have the God who created the universe, who loved us enough to die on a cross to connect us back to God in spite of all of the mistakes that we've made. And he says, I am enough, and I will be there through every storm, every weakness, every problem you have. God is enough. So what are you worshiping? Let me ask you a couple of quick questions. How do you know if you're in line with Jesus, with your finances and with these things? Are you making an idol out of finances, out of money, or are you living in alignment with Jesus? And I want to ask you a couple of quick questions. Ask this: where do you store your treasure? What do you value most? What do you value most? Maybe take that further. Next question is, when was the last time I was actually generous with my money? When did I give? Am I giving to my church? Am I giving to charity? Am I generous in any element of life? Don't box it into one thing, but am I just generous? Is my heart excited to give, or do I hoard my money because I love that comfort, because I worship it? Ask, why do I spend the way I do? Why do I save the way I do? A lot of people who grow up with their family in debt, they have this insecurity to money, and they keep it tight. It's never enough because they're always worried about what could come next. They go into debt because they didn't have enough. Maybe you grew up, I know I didn't grow up with a ton of money, and my idea of debt is I can have the things I didn't have when I was a kid because my parents were pretty financially responsible. And then I would be like, well, I have a credit card. I can go have everything I want. No repercussions will come from that. Ask, what about my life will exist beyond my final breath? Really, do I care more about my things I own that, like the verse says in Matthew, that will rust, that moths will eat, that won't exist in 100 years? It literally will decay. Or do I care about people? Do I care about relationships? Do I care about investing in my family, mentoring other people, making the world around me better? Like we talked about, one of our goals here is alleviating suffering and injustice in our city. Do I care more about that type of things than I do my financial security and basically my comfort, outside of being smart and saving and whatnot? The lie that our culture says is that you need more, but Jesus says, I am enough. So what do you need to do today? This evening, to realign yourself with Jesus' view on finances? What do you need to do to realign yourself with Jesus just across the board? What are the lies that you've been told by culture, the lies that you've been told about your life that you need to be like, no, enough is enough. I will put my faith and my trust in the Jesus of the Bible, in Jesus who sustains me. I don't need everything. And again, save wisely, invest wisely. Saving for retirement isn't a bad thing. But is it something that has consumed you? Is it something that has consumed me to the point that I worship it? That's exhausting, because it's like running on a treadmill and trying to get somewhere. You ever try to run up a down escalator? It doesn't work. You just burn yourself out. That's what the pursuit of happiness through finances is. So in just a second, we're going to have a time to reflect and to just talk to God and realign with his values, realign with what he wants for our lives. But I want to throw this out. Every time we're here at the project, we always make an opportunity that if you want to follow Jesus for the first time and make a decision to follow him, we want to talk to you. Maybe we haven't fully gone over everything there is to know. A journey with Jesus is a long journey, and it's an adventure, and there's so many things to discover, more than you can do in a 20 to 30 minute chat. But the fact is, it's worth doing, and I can tell you from experience, we believe here that following Jesus and making the decision to follow Jesus is the best decision you can make in your life. And if you want to know more about that, if you want to begin that tonight, or even just get a little bit of information on the screen, there's a link that you can go to, and I would encourage you to just go there and get connected with us. You can also talk to us on our social media or email us, or go to our website, theprojectyeg.com. But Jesus is calling out to you and telling you there's more to life than what you've seen. Whether you've never followed him before or you've been trying to follow him forever, there's more to life than what you see, than what you've experienced. There is so much more value to a Jesus-based life than without him. And I encourage you to check that out, and we want to get some information in your hands, or we'd love to pray with you and begin that awesome journey and celebrate that with you tonight. But in the meantime, the band is going to lead us through a couple of songs, but this next song is really something to reflect on. You can sing along if you want, but you can sit down and if you want, or just kind of like read the words and think, what does it mean for you? But have you been pursuing something that is a lie? Have you been putting more value in your finances? Have you been chasing debt? Have you been worshiping at the altar of finances? Is it maybe time to go and say, Jesus, I just want you. You are enough. I'm so tired of chasing these things that leave me empty. I'm tired of running up the down escalator. And I'm ready to just give it to you and admit that these comforts aren't going to be enough. And I'm only going to truly be comfortable in whatever sense of that word that means if I give everything to you, if I just trust you with my whole being. What I've been holding on to this area of my life. And maybe it's not just finances, but that's the big one we're talking about today. These other areas of my life I have been just holding on to because I'm scared to let go of that comfort. But I encourage you, analyze your life. Analyze your heart, where you put your treasure, and say, God, I'm yours. It's not enough, but tonight, I'm yours.
Praise is sung by grateful sons and daughters. never still be satisfied. It's not enough. It's not enough. I could walk the world forever till my shoes were filled with blood. It's not enough. It's not enough. Though I could live for all to lift them higher, or spend centuries seeking light within. Though I indulge my every dark desire, exhausting every avenue of sin. It's not enough. It's not enough. I could walk the world forever till my shoes were filled with blood. It's not enough. It's not enough. I could right all wrongs or ravage everything beneath the sun. It's not enough. It's not enough. So wake me whole. It's not enough. It never was. Awake I could walk the world forever till my shoes were filled with blood. It's not enough. It's not enough. I could right all wrongs or salvage everything beneath the sun. It's not enough. It's not enough. Though all would bow to me till I could drink of fear and love. It's not enough. It's not
I'm wrestling with these thoughts. Are you who they say you are? If you're so good, then why do I feel empty? I'm trying, but I can't break through. Praying, but I'm so confused. Is it true that you were thinking of me? And is it true that you are always for me? So why does my heart distress? And why do I feel so lonely? Help me to understand. so good and holy. I'm listening for your heart. I know you're who you say you are. You were right there with me in my dreaming. And now that I made it through, I know that it was always you. You're all I want and all I've ever needed. And even when it's hard, I still believe it. So why should my heart stress? And how could I feel unworthy when you have called me? You are the King of glory. So why should my heart stress? How could I feel unworthy? You have called me free. You are the King of glory. God, you're the King of glory. And when all is said and done, you remind me again of your love and of your mercy. So overwhelming, you surround me like a flood. I am lost within, and you are holy. That again, and when all is said and done, you remind me again of your love and of your mercy, so overwhelming, and you surround me like a flood. I am lost within, and you are holy, you are God. Let's sing one more time. And when all is said and done, you remind me again of your love and of your mercy, so overwhelming, and you surround me like a flood. I am lost within, and you are holy, you are God. Father, just thank you for that tonight. That when all is said and done, you remind us again and again of your love and of your mercy, of your goodness, of your grace.
There's just so many things that are just lobbying for our attention, that are telling us that they're going to satisfy us, that they're going to fulfill us, whether it's money, whether it's, fame, popularity, a job, a relationship. There's so many things that we can choose to chase after and try to just find our life's fulfillment out of. But God, we thank you that in those moments when we realize that nothing really truly satisfies, God, that you are there waiting for us to reach out to you. And it's those moments that we learn that you are the most satisfying thing, that you are the one that brings us like a true sense of purpose and value and meaning. So God, I pray that you would help us to just remember that. And we would remember that every day. And we would live in such a way that we would always put you first. And we wouldn't fall for those traps of chasing those other things. God, we thank you just for this time of just getting to sing to you. And in your name we pray. Amen.